Hi, I'm Kevin Metzger, and welcome to today's newest episode of 5 on AI. And today we're going to talk about Notebook LM. Notebook LM has been around for a while, and I started using it initially, actually when I was sick with COVID, I think in maybe February. I had seen a video on it from an author who was using it to do some writing, but at the time they only allowed 10 sources. Now you can do up to 50 sources. There is now the ability, if you haven't seen it, to do automated generated podcasts. You've seen it in our customer success playbook episodes. We released one recently. I recently did one on AI laws around the world. We generated a podcast on that. And now I want to show you because I find it to be a very good tool and you can really do some great things. I'm going to pull it up and we're going to talk about that right now. So we are inside of Notebook LM. I wanted to go through some of the ways I've been using Notebook LM. First thing I'll show is there's some notes here at the bottom. These were loaded in Notebook LM as examples of how to use it when you first got in here. I see that I have a couple of things in here. This is from February of 28. I was taking the MIT course. Some of the scripts I loaded to basically study with. I went in, honestly, I think at the time I was really just going through and getting summaries of information about some of the content they had given me that you could download and read. I threw them in to get summaries to help improve my ability to understand what I was reading and consume it. Quickly, if you haven't been inside of Notebook LM, you go into the notebook guide and it gives you a couple of ways to look at things. So you can generate a FAQ, you can generate study guides, you can generate table of contents, timelines, briefing docs. It has suggested questions and it has the deep dive conversation that you can generate where it basically will generate a podcast between two hosts. You have no control over how this gets done, but you can download it once it's been done. The summary is an overall summary of everything. If you click on a specific document, it will give you a summary of the document as well as key topics. And if you were to click on a key topic, it will generate basically a discussion of the events in that topic. While it's doing that generation, you can read over those concepts. It gives you references, so you can click back into the document and see the source of where it's pulling that information from, which is huge. And you can save it to a note, and now it's on your dashboard for that discussion, and look at that. So I started looking at this back, like I said, in February, used it a couple times, stepped away from it. They added the new features. I saw some people talking about it. I had a speech coming up I was going to give on AI agents. It was only a 5-minute speech, but I had a lot of content I was synthesizing to put together. Let's talk about content. How and where can you add content? So if you come in and you can add sources and you can basically drag and drop PDFs, text, markdowns, or audio files directly into it. You can't do Word documents directly into it, but you can pull Google Docs and Google Slides directly in. You can link websites. You can link most YouTube videos. Now, if there for some reason isn't a transcript on the video, it won't pull it in. And then you can copy and paste texts. So I was preparing for this speech on AI agents. I had pulled in all of this information from all these various sources. I was able to go in, read the summary of those. I had some discussions with some of the sources, and I had generated this podcast. The neat thing about generating the podcast was on my way down to give the speech, I was able to re-listen to the podcast in my car, hear some different points of view on all the information that I had already thought about. It was really neat. Plus, you've got all these suggested questions in here, by the way, that you can generate conversations as conversation starters based off of the content that you have. During the speech, I actually set a LinkedIn message to go out while I was giving the speech. It wasn't a speech. It was a 5-minute presentation, but it was a 5-minute presentation to 40 people. published some highlights from what I was talking about into LinkedIn while I was giving the speech so that it was there later. I was able to reference it, and really, really a great way of using this tool. Some other things that are getting more interesting for me is we've created a lot of content on the customer success playbook in the last year. You can load up to 50 sources right now. We loaded all the sources. We hit 5,000 downloads, and I was able to generate a new episode with the deep dive conversation. When you generate a conversation, you only have one conversation. You are able to delete that conversation and then generate another content. Most of the time, it's generating a 6 minute, 9 minute. I've had different lengths, but it's 6, 9, 8, 7 minutes when you generate a conversation. If you generate this particular one, I've got approximately 40 sources in here. The second time I generated the conversation, it was like a 24-minute conversation. That's the one I think I ended up publishing because it's about the length of a regular podcast, but it gave an excellent podcast. One of the things we've done post-game episodes in the past on the customer success playbook, which we haven't been doing as much lately. I think we're about to start doing more of those post-game episodes. And we just generated one from the Meredith Mann episode, which was this past week, which was an interview with Meredith Mann from LinkedIn. We were talking about how she's using AI and her team at LinkedIn. We've got a 6-minute highlight episode. We're going to publish that. At any rate, really a powerful tool. There's a lot of ways you can use this. And actually what brought me back in was I was talking to a cousin of mine who was telling me one of the things he's got to do is review government laws. He's in finance, and sometimes new finance rules come out, and he's got to be able to review the documents and get detailed information. And so that was the first thing. And I was like, I've seen somebody mention Notebook LM again. I had used it in February last year. It had limited sources. It was limited in size. And let me go pull some laws. And I'm more interested in AI than I am in finance. So I pulled some of the AI laws and started having a conversation about the AI laws that were being proposed. These were the US and EU AI laws, generated a podcast on it, published the podcast to LinkedIn, so you may have heard it, was able to generate a fabulous podcast. That's a good overview of some of the ways I've been using Notebook LM. If you haven't used it, it's worth getting in there. It's worth playing with it. If you're a student, I think there's huge opportunities with this. Generate your briefing doc, read your briefing doc, generate your audio conversation, have your audio conversation, have conversations of what are the main provisions of the EU's Artificial Intelligence Act and how does it classify and regulate AI systems based on their perceived risk. I don't know. Let's see what the chat tells us. By the way, down here, if you can't see it, explain the purpose of the National Artificial Intelligence Research Resource, or the NAIRR, as outlined in the Create AI Act of 2023. You can do all these things, and that took a little longer to generate than it usually does, but you've got copyright compliance, adhering to your copyright law, data content. So all this is on the EU. What a incredible detailed information referencing back to the law, explaining what's happening, where it's sourcing. You can double check whether it's right or wrong. But I've found that this is very, very accurate in summarizing and using the documents. So I want to talk a little bit about how this is working and what's happening here. This is effectively using retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, where you're giving it some documents and it's using those documents in context of any discussion you're having with the AI. In this case, Notebook LM, which is using the Gemini model, and it's looking at those documents and then using the LLM to look at the document, make decisions, and give information based off of the documents that you're looking at. And you can build LLMs, you can build tools that basically use that model. You can train it on information, and you can use RAG to pull information in and actually give specific information about a topic. You can, if you're looking at it from a customer success perspective, can you train it on customer information? Can you build a local model that's trained on your customer information, or information that's in your CRM about your customers, and be able to feed that information back so you can interact with it, so you know your history, you know what's happened. Can you use it? How are the ways that you can use this in business? You want to think about that. You want to think about how you're going to be able to leverage all these tools. Thank you for joining me today. I'm your AI assistant guy. We'll talk to you again soon.